Okay, welcome back. So we're going to do a little review on a scope. Right, this scope I've had now for a whole season because I wasn't happy with the last one. So the last 2 years I've bounced around different scopes trying to find the perfect one. I'm not sure there is a perfect scope. Now look, this weapon is clear and safe. I'll actually take out the magazine so nothing can shoot. This is a Smith & Bender scope. So just to talk about Smith & Bender, they're well known across militaries and police forces, predominantly for their PM2, so the police marksman number 2, which a lot of sniper teams and SWAT teams use. They're in business since 1965, predominantly focusing on rifle scopes. Actually, all of their glass I think is rifle scopes. So the one we're going to have a look at is the Smith & Bender Pollard, T96. There are a couple of versions of this scope in terms of magnification, and there's 3 to be precise, and objective lens. This one is a 4:16 by 56. Again, I'm going to explain that. I know you probably already know what that means, but the base magnification is 4, the max magnification on it is 16, and then the objective lens is a 56. Alright, its name Polar T96 is because this rifle scope boasts a 96 light transmission, 96% light transmission, which is the highest on the market at the moment. Now I'll just touch on that quickly. Most rifle manufacturers do their own testing in-house and produce their numbers. Alright, there's only one that sends it away to be tested. That is the Blazer brand sends it away for independent testing. Now, I presume they're all honest with their light transmission findings, because I presume they'll be found out quite quickly. I will argue, or I will say this, in last light is probably the best last light hunting scope I've had. I get 10-15 minutes on, and 10-15 minutes on seek a deer is the difference between getting a deer and not getting a deer, compared to other people that I do be out hunting with. Alright, it comes in first focal plane and second focal plane. This is a second focal plane. It comes in a variety, I can't even speak today, a variety of different reticles. This is the German 4 or the A4, which is basically just a crosshair with a dot in the center. It's illuminated, and it's a fine little dot in the center that lights up, which is perfect. It tracks your eyes straight into the center of your scope. It has a parallax. It comes with both BDC, dialable turrets, or capped turrets. So you can pick whichever you want. So I'm gonna rip the scope off the rifle. I'm gonna bring you in a little bit closer and talk through the scope. I mightn't get everything I want to talk about done, but I'll talk through the basics of the scope. Alright? So, a couple of things before we start looking at the features. The scope is actually quite long and is hefty enough. It is heavy. It also is pricey in terms of comparable scopes in this range. And what I mean by this range is like it's a 4 times magnification range scope. Alright, it can go anywhere from 2,600 up to 3,000 depending on what focal plane, objective lens, magnification, dialable turrets, whatever you're picking, that's the range it goes to and from. Alright, in terms of price. But for a hunting scope that has 16 times magnification, a BDC turret and a 56 objective lens, which means you can stretch out hunting shots a little bit more and have the confidence of it. It also boasts, like I said, 96% light transmission. So it is a very, very good scope. Alright. 34mm tube on it. Alright, so it's a really thick tube, but that is more for light gathering through the scope. as well as your 56 objective lens. Right, I never mentioned earlier that this is in mils. All right, so 1 click is equal to 1 centimeter. So it's in the mil system in terms of dialing. Right, so starting at the back, you have your optical focal, all right, and all that's used for is making your crosshairs nice and crisp and clean inside the scope, depending on your eyesight. All right, there is no rubber on this scope at all. Everything is made of aluminum. All right, and due to that fact, it's a very robust scope. All right, moving up to your magnification. Like I said, it's 4:16. It is stiff to move, but smooth to move. There's no chance you're going to knock off your magnification. All right, it's very tactile to grip, and in cold weather, it is very usable with gloves on due to that fact. All right, then we move down to your illumination system, and this goes from 0, which is off, all the way up to 11, and it's a full rotation of the drum. All right, on it you might be able to see it. You'll see a little sun and a moon, indicating that one is best suited, like this range 1 to 6 is best suited for last light conditions, and then from 7 up to 11 is best suited for daytime conditions. Point to note, there is a little line between 6 and 7. If you put it on that, that is in the off position, and then you can pick and choose at 1 click if you go into daytime or nighttime settings. After 6 hours, if you forget to turn off your illuminated ret, 6 hours and it knocks itself off. All right, so that's built in. What else is notable about this? The crosshairs inside is a German 4 or A4. So all that lights up when you stick on your illuminated ret is the real fine center dot, which is perfect. In here, under this cap, which you can see screwing, is your battery. All right, that's your battery housing. In your battery is a CR32 that fits in here, and the illuminated ret won't just die. It warns you that it's run out of battery. It'll start to flash, which means it gives you time to change your battery. Right, moving down, we have our parallax, which goes from 30 all the way to infinity. Again, it's a full rotation of the drum, which means you have plenty of play in your parallax, fine adjustment, so you can balance your parallax properly. Parallax does affect accuracy of shooting because it makes the crosshairs jump if you don't have the correct spot weld every time on your cheek piece. All right, so there's plenty of fine adjustment to make sure that your crosshair is no longer moving, and that's how you set that with parallax. Then we move on to our dialable turrets. Here, like I said, it's in mils. It's lockable, very tactile. I hope you can hear that. Right? Not as tactile as the PM2, which is a military grade scope, but still very tactile. And again, little in grooves on the top mean that you can use it with gloves and you can still feel the clicks. I said it's lockable, so you can lock your turret. This little portion here, when you slide that all the way around and in line with your objective lens, it's locked. You can no longer move the turret, which is a really, I haven't actually seen another scope with that type of locking system on it. It's actually very handy. On the right hand side of the scope is your wind adjustment. Right, I'll just screw it off to show you. Sorry, to go back to your elevation turret, that goes from 1 to 10, so 10 mils of adjustment. It only does one rotation. It is a hunting scope at the end of the day, and that is perfect for hunting conditions. While your windage has multiple rotations. And in here, there's a small little indication system, green and red, a little arrow in the center, to tell you if you are in the optimal range. If you start going into the red, all right, what happens is it'll still work, it'll still dial in the red, left and right. You will eventually run out of movement, but you're not in the optical plane for the scope. So that just means that you're off to one side or the other, where you want to be kept in the green. So that is a handy little tool that the scope has. Right, moving down, your objective lens. It's a 56, so it gathers as much light as possible. That is pretty much it in terms of the scope. Alright, now final thoughts. Right, overall thoughts. The eye box on this is good, but it's not the best I've seen. I'm just going to leave it like that. Alright, it is rated for a really heavy recoil, and the eye relief is really good, which means you're not worried about the recoil coming back and the scope kissing your eyebrow and cutting you. So in that regards, it's good. Look, I'm really happy with the glass quality. Last light conditions, I get about 10 minutes, if not 15 minutes, either before coming in to first light or at last light, than the people I'm shooting with. So I'm really happy with that regards. Downside, it fogs up. Fogs up me, and I've not been able to shoot for that reason. So for that reason, I'm considering changing the scope. Now I know I've said it's a really good scope, probably the best scope I've had for hunting last light. But it's no use to me if it fogs up. Paul Whelan, one of the listeners on the podcast, is after recommending a Zeiss anti-fog spray. So I'm after ordering that. I'm going to give that a shot. Hopefully that works. It's that much of a flaw, I will change it. But yeah, I hope that's of some use to you. That is an honest review. It's an awful shame it fogs up, because it's one of the top 4 brand manufacturers when it comes to hunting scopes and last light shooting scopes. Alright, stay tuned and I'll let you know how I get on.